Western Spring Television, ours it is.
Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you for being here with us today, as usual, on Western Spring Television. And the program right now is Morning Spring, where we talk and converse about the greater good of this nation for Nigeria. And the reason why we do this is what I've just mentioned. And what we do here to have a better Nigeria in these guys is to have very frank and deep conversation about issues of public importance. Femi Ojo remains my name. Thank you for being here with us on the station that says it as it is. Evelyn, good morning.
Good morning, Femi. How do you do?
The lady in black.
Yeah, morning. Black is beautiful, so they say.
I agree.
And welcome, people. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for always making this a date with us. It is the second working day of the week, and you know what to talk about second chances. I mean, it's another day to make it count. Yeah. So ensure that this second chance you're given this week is a second and better one. So ensure to go for anything, go for your dreams. Do not allow the challenges of yesterday draw you back. Yesterday is gone. Today is ready for you to take over the world. My name is Evelyn Ohiole.
That's right, Evelyn Ohiole. Thank you for doing this with me. And, on the program, we usually look at the papers. You see headlines are seen in our major dailies. That's the first part of the program. And then after that, we take a pause and then have this conversation. Today is basically about security, different angles, different challenges. And yesterday, unfortunately, we heard that, abduction happened in Kajuru again, Kaduna State. This is a state Steve tried to outsmart himself from the 287 Kurega pupils and students that were weeks away, almost a week ago. None of them have been returned since. And now in Kajuru, many persons are asking, why Kaduna? But the question is, or the matter is, it's not just only Kaduna, but it seems there is something fishy about the state. We'll look into that. And then the dust has not yet settled on what happened in Okwama, in Delta State, Ugoli South local government. And, yesterday, different angles began to emerge, Evelyn, and some persons who are residents of the village, who spoke on condition of anonymity, expectedly so, by the way, said maybe the narrative painted by the army is not just the only, with what they said, that wasn't exactly how it happened, that yes, there were issues between Okwama and Okolobia. And then the army, was summoned or called, and they went there. Some of them said, yes, meeting happened, that there were talks. It wasn't just that they were entering into the community and the ambush happened. They say, yes, they held meeting between both sides. And at a point, they now said, maybe after the talk, they wanted to go with one of the chiefs, one of the leaders of Okwama, for further questioning or something, and the youth said no. You are not good. You have had talks between two villages. We've made ourselves available to you. You have had talks with us. We've told you our own side of the story. Why go away with our leader? Whatever you want to say said here. And I think, according to those eyewitnesses, that was when, the thing degenerated, and, there was some rowdy session, and it was said by these residents that everything became violent. Maybe the villagers charged at the army, and then, we learned, according to them, that's why I keep saying, according to them, like 2 or 3 of them said gunshots were fired, and that was when hell broke loose. So, and as they say, there are different angles to issues as well. Because many persons are saying it looks fishy, really, that that troop will just be coming into town, and some villagers will just, round them up, shoot at them, and do whatever they said they've done. But then, there are angles, my fact, your fact, and then there's the truth.
Yeah. And
it's the truth we are waiting for.
Of course, and this actually reminds me of that piece written by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, The Dangers of a One-Sided Story. Definitely we want to hear the story from the community, but then the investigation that people have called for should be done thoroughly. It shouldn't be something we just do on a superficial level. The president should be on this matter.
In your own opinion, to be done by who? To be heralded by who? Because many persons are saying if the military are going to do it, some civilians might not believe it because they will think they might be a bit emotional.
Well, we have the National Security Advisor, and this is part of his job description. It's not just, yes, they were speaking to Deyemi Saka, and he said that it is time for the NSA to actually be the NSA. You should leave politics aside. It seems is, modeling with politics at this time. So this is the time for him to be a National Security Advisor and be on this matter, because we really want to know the truth. We want the situation, the incident should be investigated thoroughly so that everyone found culpable will be brought to justice. If the Okwama community say that they were attacked by the army personnel before they retaliated, then we would like to see the victims, the casualties from their own side too, because
as many of them said as many as 50 villagers were shot.
So we want to see the casualties, we want to see the people that died. So it's not just about you coming out with a narrative, it's also you proving that this situation actually happened.
That's right.
So that's just it. And also speaking about incidences that happen, insecurity is on the rise. I mean, it's always been like this, especially for the past 6 months. A suicide bomber in Borno State yesterday was also he was heading to a mosque to detonate an IED, and before he got there, the IED went off on his body, and he actually died in the course, and 2 people were injured. But we thank God that at least the casualties are not more than that, because it would have been a very terrible situation. This morning we would have still be sending out our condolences to the people of Borno. This speaks to the kind of mentality these people have, to just want to die for a particular cause. We do not know the cause this man, wants to die for, but whatever it's like,
want to bring down as many people as possible.
Exactly. So.
But then kudos to the Eagle Eye officers who neutralized him. By the way, I will pray for quick recovery for those that are injured. Sometimes the girls wonder, how do people think? What they said is ideology, whatever warped, ideology those people are having, kudos to the military, to the officers, men in uniform who are trying their best, to protect this nation, you and I. But then, it is what it is. It appears like that best is not good enough. But then we look into this and more in the course of the program. I agree completely with what my colleague said here. The truth must prevail, and the office of the NSA and everybody that should stand for what is right at this time should do that. We'll go on this break. When we come back, we start with the papers. Stay with us. All right. Yes, the headline segment is where we are in right now, where we reel out, interesting headlines from our major dailies. And we have quite a few of them this morning. Let me start with Vanguard. Vanguard newspaper. Aftermath of soldiers' killings, bloodbath in Delta. Villagers flee, hide in forest. You know, very many riders there. Try to be quick as possible. Military on rampage. Arrest community leader. Others over alleged harboring of perpetrators. Troops storm Bayelsa community. Raise buildings. Some feared dead. A brewery visits community. What triggered the bloodbath? That's coming from inhabitants. Resort to propaganda by Okwama community. Callous, totally condemnable. That's coming from the army. How soldiers were ambushed, killed in Delta community. Major General Ese Haigbe, retired. Killing of 16 soldiers by irate youth unacceptable. That's coming from the defense ministers. Senate charges security agencies to smoke out undesirable outlaws. Senator Ndume, Rep Balami, Mon Major Danjuma Shea. Okay, and NHRC calls for restraint, prosecution of corporates. And the final one under that piece, there will be measured response, injurious consequences for perpetrators. DHQ, that's a very deep worded one there, Evelyn. There will be measured response. Who measures it? That's the question here. And as these headline has it, bloodbath in Delta. Villagers flee, hide in forest. And you know, there was this video that has gone viral since 2 days ago of, you know, the raising of some houses and huts in that community under the guise of searching for corporate. You know, it is a very difficult conversation right now, so that one doesn't appear insensitive, but then restraint, you know, should still be the watchword here. And then, sadly, the fallen soldiers. The pictures have been made public. Photos as released by the Defense Headquarters. Lieutenant Colonel A.H.R. Lee, that's the commanding officer there. He led that troop. And then many of them, you could see their faces. For a detail of their names and the faces, please pick up a copy of this paper. You know, they have paid the supreme price, sadly. But moving on from that, Ssanu'S grant varsities over with health salaries. Undersea cable cord service now restored. Telcos NCC confirm. And African Wrestling Championships, Nigerian wrestlers go gold wire in Egypt. Kudos to the athletes, especially the ongoing African Games. They have been doing very well. I think it's not really making the headlines because it's not football, but then they have been doing the nation very proud, especially the women. They have really been blazing. Kudos to every woman, especially the athletes at the ongoing competition. Nigerian wrestlers go gold wire in Egypt. And Ibadan Circular Road, over 6,000 residents to be rendered homeless. You want to know why? You have this paper for explanation. Moving on, pardon. Obi calls for review of 2024 budget. Seems we have not heard the last of that particular allegation of pardon and whatever comes with it. The 2024 budget. Top strip, energy crisis, vandalism, debt. Orders hinder 8,000 megawatt supply report. Edoguba, APC unveils Idahosa running mate. And Tinubu predicts victory for APC, presents party's flag to Okwebolo. PDP picks Ogbe as Igodalu's running mate. Okwebolo dynasty, okay, is Igodalu's candidacy. It is what it is. The game is on in Edo to see who will succeed. Governor Godwin Obaseki. Terrorists kidnap 87 in fresh Kaduna attack. When we say 87 human beings. Nigerian doomed without new constitution. Anyoko, Adebanjo, Nwachukwu, Atta, and Sanwo-Olu. It is what it is. That's what the Vanguard has for us. Evelyn.
All right, we move on to the Punch newspaper this morning. The Punch newspaper for today, soldiers killing. Army, Delta community differ over reprisal as troops arrest 20. Army accuses community of complicity. DHQ releases photos, names of fallen soldiers Delta Governor visit Okwama, meets with JTF commander. Reporters restrained. IYC condemns attack. That all on the report of the soldiers killing in Delta State last week. Without salaries, Ssanu'S strike grounds varsity. 2,814 schools registered for NSCDC security arrangement, says commander. EFCC recovers 324 houses, documents for Kano pensioners. 87 abducted in fresh Kaduna raid. Borno bomber dies. And tension in Ogun as transport unions clash over ticket sales. Top corner of the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. Dollar supply rises to $11 billion. Naira closes at 1,572 to the dollar. And cable cut, telcos pledge 100% voice data services today. We hope for that smooth communication today. Rep someone Edun RMAFC over judges for pay. And these are stories that you can find in the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, from the Punch newspaper, we go to the Nation newspaper for today. Of course, you have, I think it's a paid advert now, talking about the movement of Jim Ibrahim. But let's look at the top strip. Army to Delta community identify killers. The slain 17 unveiled. Now we are hearing 17. The army is telling Delta community to better identify the killers. And 86 abducted in Kaduna. Edo 2024, Okpebolo, Idahosa get Tinubu's backing. Olupadon Fidawu for Mapo. Yes, the late Oba Balogun that went to be with his fathers, with his ancestors last week. Fidao is slated for the iconic Mapo Hall in Ibadan. Of course, moving on, services affected by undersea cable court restored, says NCC. Okay, after sacking 12 more CBN directors to go. Why? The Nation has that on its page 4. Evelyn.
All right, from the Nation newspaper this morning, we add on to the Guardian newspaper. Inflation and rising construction costs. Low middle class differ home ownership plans for food. And you can see the breakdown there on the front page of the Guardian newspaper for today, with 30% of income needed for mortgage. It's difficult for workers earning 100,000 naira to own a home. And February food inflation rises to 37.92%. Okay, away from that, court convicts 5 for murder, kidnapping in Rivers. Settle Nasu Sanu members urgently. NLC tells government Luton depicts misrule, misery, and decadence in society. You can get that on editorial page 12 of the Guardian newspaper for today. And terrorism, Ohaneze cautions Tinubu as gunmen abduct dozens in fresh Kaduna attack. You know, Femi, the other day we were talking about the audacity of these criminals. You know, this is a state that, you know, just got a hit.
Yeah, still in the news.
Still in the news. 287.
Yeah.
Now we have another 87 being abducted in Kaduna State. You know, right now I do not envy Governor Ubasani because he has a whole lot on his plate. And to think that we hear the president talking tough, saying he's not going to pay a dime for ransom, and he's not going to encourage anyone to do that. And he has also mandated the security agencies to fish out these criminals and ensure that these pupils are returned back home on earth. And just while the president is, you know, blowing hot, the governor is talking tough, the these people came back to tell them it wasn't the first time.
Wasn't a mistake.
It wasn't a mistake.
We don't fear you. That's what it means.
We mean
business.
Don't care. So at this point, how helpless can we be as a country? Because, like I always say, these are not cockroaches, these are not flies, these are human beings.
87 human beings.
And if you are to put it in the right context, this is 87 families affected. So,
at least,
I mean, it's so worrisome, it's so sad.
Evelyn, it is the brazen audacity for me. For a state that is still in the news, the president is talking about it, the defense headquarters is talking about the abduction that has happened, to say, go after these criminals, get back our children, bring back our children rather. And in the middle of that, they've not been able to bring back the children, yet maybe those criminals or another set of criminals went after other persons, you know, to abduct 87. Just like you said, they are not cockroaches that you put inside pocket and you duck away. No. 87 human lives, even if they are babies, let's say they are 1 year old, you know, it will take some people to cut away 87 people. And so it means, I think the message, more like in my, let me use the way they say it, in my bloody civilian thinking, is they are saying, we don't fear you. We don't care. There's nothing you will do. We are the one in charge. Because some are still in your den. The government is saying, go after them. And another person or another group, or if it's the same group, went after 87. And I know maybe it's not just the 87. At the end of the day, maybe it's those 87 that have been accounted for so far, that have been identified to be missing. Because there might be more, there might be less. But it's only that when each family counts their people that they will know, okay, 87 of these people are the ones missing. And they've come back in the same week. It might not be the same space, it might not be the same community, but you would think that those people should be ducking, they should be hiding somewhere, they should not even be moving. But they went out to cut away another 87. I think this is an affront on the Nigerian state. If I had to be the CNC, I would do everything possible within the law to go after them consistently. Because you are daring the CNC, you are daring the Nigerian state to say, that, just like you said, the 287 wasn't a fluke. We are going to do it again, and they've done it again on Sunday night. It's a sad situation we have in our hands right now. It's a shame on the Nigerian state.
Well, we keep hoping. I mean, it's a renewed hope administration, so all we can do right now.
So what about the hope of those people?
That's all we can do at this time.
For the people of Kaduna, is it renewed hope now, or renewed trauma?
Oh, that's one there. All right, let me just round off with the Guardian newspaper this morning. Tinubu meets Edo APC chiefs over state crisis. Sanwo-Olu, ex-governors, others call for new constitution. All right, amazing. That's on news page 7 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. A new constitution. Okay, and implementation hurdles for copious provisions in new Electricity Act. Metering gaps remains despite 273.3 billion naira loan to discos for meters others. And that will be all for the headlines on the front page of the Guardian newspaper for today.
Yeah, before we take a pause, I saw news yesterday that I think some billions, just few billions here and there, who are released for, I think, the military of the Nigerian Army for metering in all the barracks. And there was this time that I knew contracts were given to indigenous companies to produce meters. I didn't know how that, panned out at the end of the day. But recently, some of these companies have been crying out to say, give us this contract. We can execute, we can produce these meters inward, so that at least you don't have to pay for importation. The dollar, pressure on the dollar will not even be there. But some persons will say some of the major components in making this meter will still be imported. It might not be imported in it as a whole.
Or to be more assembled here, more like assembling here.
They still feel it's something. And then, I think I took, let me check, sorry, the Vanguard earlier, and I saw energy crisis, vandalism, thank you, producer, debt orders hinder 8,000 megawatts of supply. And one thing came to my mind, all we've been saying about the power sector, Evelyn, Has been reports, complaints, figures, data, what we are not doing well, what we're supposed to be doing, the kind of money we need. But the thing is light no day.
Permit me to say this in one of the statements that went viral in the last campaign, presidential campaign. I mean, the last general elections.
Yeah.
I say now data we go chop. So people just want
throwing shade there.
People just want there to be light. Let there be light. I mean, just give us what we want. And I tell you, if people have constant electricity, constant power supply, they will pay.
Yeah.
It is when you give them what you're supposed to give them, what you ought to give them, that's when you can stand proudly and say, we are going after those that are not paying. But if you're not giving them what they want, then you also have failed in your own responsibility, of providing power supply. So I wonder what Minister Adebayo Adelabu is doing at this time. I do not envy his job at this time, really.
But it seems more like
it seems more like he really is having a tough time getting,
having a grasp. Thank you.
Of that
what that ministry is about.
That ministry, yes. I know he's been going here and there, visiting different stations and all of that. But then,
and really now data.
But
data. The thing is, the data will go chop. Just like President Tinubu, let's mention the name. Just like President Tinubu said when he was, responding to some of the data ruled out by P2B of the Labour Party then during the campaign session, our data will go chop. Now, we are seeing the data here, and it seems not to be working. But then, this is the time to speak to the distribution company in charge of this state and other states, IBDC, to say you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Evelyn, many persons are complaining. We're in Osogbo, the complaint is high. In the whole of the state, in Ede, I know of Ilesha, I know of some communities that are not having the light. On our sister station, on a radio program yesterday, the anchor asked to specifically speak to these issues to say, if you are having issues, I'm talking about the IBDC now, if you're having issues supplying light or distributing or giving people power because the hours in which they supply the light has drastically gone down, at least in this community, we've gone days without it, you should be speaking to the people. Let the people know why. That's why you have the PR department, the information department, there are budgets in each company for these. Come on radio, come on television, do whatever you have to do. Go on social media to speak to the people to say these are the challenges we are having. And if it's not technical, speak to the people. Do you know why I'm saying this? Is it gets to a point that people are so upset, and they are upset right now. And then at the end of the month, these IBDC staff will go around to say they want to recoup their money. And you know what happens? The people are already angry. And so when you knock up on somebody's house to say, we are here to collect money or to cut your light, your guess is as good as mine. So don't provoke the people. We are not inciting you. We are just telling you the obvious. Let the people know what is happening. If it's technical, tell them. If there is a date, okay, in the next 1 month, people will be afraid to say, okay, they've told us, but you are not speaking. Light they are not having. By 25, 26, on the 30th, you now go around with your bill.
The main reason why the relationship rather between the government and the people, or these institutions and the people, is because of lack of communication. And we know for any relationship to work, you must continue to communicate with your partner. I used to tell people there is nothing like over communication. You cannot overdo communication in any relationship. But right here in this country, we see government, we see leaders that push aside communication. They do not tell their citizens what they ought to be telling them. When things go south, they should tell them the reasons why these things are going south. I was complaining to a friend of mine that for the past 4 or 5 days we've not, been able to get power supply in my area, and she just laughed. She said, "Amazing,
just 5 days."
Just 5 days. She said, in our own area, they are going 1 month and 2 weeks and still counting. I mean, when she said that, I was like, oh, glory to God for mine.
That's what happens in Nigeria. You
now this
say you apply to people, and people will say, "Oh, is it just that one?"
It was so. I said 1 month, 2 weeks. She said, yes, 1 month, 2 weeks. We've not had
to
power supply.
To welders in those communities you are talking about, to people who does frozen business, frozen food business. So what has been their plan?
And we know what the fuel price of fuel is saying. So it's terrible that
I think IBDC, I'm talking about, you know, they are the ones in charge around here, should speak to the people. And there's this narrative flying around that I heard. I hope it is not true, because that's part of why they should come and speak to the people, that many persons in some communities are bypassing the meters, that they are not paying, they are doing illegal connection, and that's why they will never give them light. And I was like, really? So for me that I have a prepaid meter,
it's better you go after those.
Yeah, for me that I have prepaid meter, I've been paying as and when due. I'm using prepaid and I'm not bypassing. So I should suffer for the offense, so-called offense of those persons that are bypassing.
Damage.
Really?
That's what they call them.
I hope that collateral damage doesn't extend when their staff members go to people's house to recoup their funds. And that's where we are talking about. Please speak to the people. We'll go on this break. We'll come back. Thank you for staying with us. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, and this is the time for the conversation. And it is widely believed, and I know you know as well, that a nation cannot do better beyond the level of its education. The priority placed in the educational sector, and I think that takes priority in every serious and sane nations of the world. And now, in this case, we're talking about the tertiary institution, universities, polytechnics, colleges of education. And in Nigeria, for the past few years, there has been one challenge or the other, especially bedeviling the tertiary education system. There was a time in which it was asked to strike more than a year. We've had 8 months, and then the COVID came in. The students were in homes. And after that, many persons believed after the COVID, after the asked to strike, at least for the next 5-10 years, there will not be distractions. There will not be any distractions in our tertiary education system. But alas, it is not the same now. And so, remunerations, working conditions, infrastructures in different institutions, talking about tertiary institutions of the government, these things have been on the burner for ages, for years. But now, to speak to the matter, the Ssanu'S, talking about Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, and NASU, you know, they spoke on some issues as well. They gave the government ultimatum. They are going to down tool. And alas, yesterday, Ssanu'S went on strike, and they have the agitations as well. But to shed more light onto this matter, we are being joined right now by Comrade Abdulsabir Salam. He is the Vice President of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities. Although he is on transit, he joins us live via Zoom. Comrade, good morning. Thank you for doing this with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right. Yes. Yesterday, before yesterday, you gave an ultimatum. You said you are going to down tool, you are going to go on strike, and you make good of your promise. And many Nigerians, you know, when asked to speak, they resonate. When it resonates with them, when Nigerian Labour Congress speaks, they resonate with them. But many persons are wondering, Ssanu'S, what do they want? You are the comrade here. Speak to us. What's the agitation about?
Thank you very much. I think it's just a function of a societal problem. Because first and foremost, we need to first identify who are the people who make up Ssanu'S. Ssanu'S is the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, and they are made up of professionals within the university system. They are made up of those people who run the engine, who oil the engine of the system. Who are those people who oil the engine of the system? They are not even the lecturers. But unfortunately, when we talk about the university system, the perception is to assume that this university or an educational institution is only made up of lecturers and students. What of the professionals? What of the administrators? What of the accountants? What of the medical doctors? What of the engineers? What of the security? Those are the people who make up SANU. Those people who are the engine of the system in terms of ensuring that the system runs. The ICT facilities in our universities are run by SANU members. The medical services, the medical doctors, the nurses, the pharmacists, the laboratory scientists, the laboratory technologists, the medical records officer are made up of SANU members. The administrators who run the examinations, who run the records, who run the establishment, the personnel and all of that are made up of SANU members. The accountants are made up of SANU members. So it's a function of the fact that the society assumes, and that's why I said it's a misplaced perception, a situation where we assume that it can only resonate when you talk of the university, you assume that it's only lecturers that hold a pride of place. But you forget that even the lecturers, and that's why when you talk about a university, they always say a university system. That is because a system, every unit, even the weakest link, like they say a body is strongest at its weakest link. Or how did they say it? But the point is, everybody is important in a system. Every part is important in a system. So I do not understand why SANU or NASU should be assumed not to be important to a point where it doesn't resonate with the society. Because at the end of the day, they actually make up the fulcrum of how the university itself operates. Without them, 24 hours the university cannot operate. But again, I understand the fact that because SANU and NASU are not loquacious unions, with due respect, they are not loquacious unions, they are not strike-happy unions. They are not unions that will go on strike with the drop of a hat. So because of that, they operate silently as administrators, as professionals. We want to be careful about how because our impact in the system within 24 hours, you can imagine what it will do when NASU goes on strike. Even the cleaners will not clean the offices. The cleaners will not clean the hostels. You can imagine the kind of epidemic and health hazard this can cause alone. So those are reasons why we are always very circumspect about going on strike, and that's why, well, if the society says that they do not know SANU, they do not know NASU, we forgive them.
All right, comrade, good one there. Now, for this strike action, I'm asking, and the people want to know, you know, there are reports, there are communiques that said, yes, SANU is going to ground, you know, activities. I remember Punch of March 18 asked it to say SANU, NASU vow to ground universities as federal government feigns ignorance. Walk us through quickly for this one. What would you have wanted the government to do that they are not doing?
Very good. Well, let me take you on a background on why we went or why we are on strike. Mind you, we have not even grounded the system yet, because what we are doing now is a warning strike. It's only for 7 days. We have not talked about an indefinite strike because, like we would say as labor activists, we have a toolbox. And in your labor toolbox, there are a lot of tools that you can use or you can deploy for the purpose of ensuring your demands or your agitation are met. You can go on protest. Strikes can be staggered. It can be a warning strike and it can be an indefinite strike. What we have only done is to declare a warning strike, meaning that it is a precursor. It is to lead to an indefinite strike if attention is not given to the issues. And what are the issues? You recall that in 2022, we embarked on strike. And when we embarked on strike, it was on substantive issues, which had to do with the issues of IPPIS. IPPIS was a government introduced, as they say, like some people have also investigated and found out that it was an externally induced or introduced payment platform into the university system, which at the end of the day had cost amputated salaries for our members, such that we found registrars being paid the salaries of drivers, drivers being paid the salaries of buses and all whatnot. So there were a lot of irregularities in the payment platform called IPPIS. 1. 2, there was the renegotiation of our 2009 agreement, when we signed the agreement in 2009, it was it was clearly stated there that the agreement would only suffice for 3 years, and after 3 years it will be due for a renegotiation. And in line with extant labor practice, it is clear that an agreement will be viable for 3 years. After 3 years, it is due for renegotiation. That is ILO standards. But we found a situation where we signed an agreement in 2009. It was due for a renegotiation in 2012. There was no renegotiation. Up till as we speak, we are still debating the issues of 2009 agreement. And this is about 15 years after, when there should have been a rollover of that agreement at least 5 times within the last 15 years. So we argued that there must be a renegotiation, a conclusion of the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement. There was also the issue of earned allowances, which stemmed from the 2009 agreement, because we had allowances that had accrued from the 2009 agreement based on earned allowances which were not catered for by the government, and for that reason we felt there was need for government to address these issues. There was the issue of funding of the university system, such that when you go around the facilities, especially the areas that non-teaching staff take care of, for example, go around our medical centers, go around our health services, go around the administrator's office, you will find them in very dilapidated and outdated states, you know. And those were the issues that we brought to the front burner. We had started this agitation since 2020 with an understanding that COVID was not, the aftermath of COVID was not a convenient time for us to go into any strike. So we engaged government, but when we were pushed to the wall in 2022, we had to go on strike. We went on strike for about 6 months. Out of the 6 months, in the first 2 months, we went on strike between 27th of March 2022 and 24th of August 2022. In the course of the strike, government stopped our salaries, but we were unrelenting and we proceeded with the strike. But by early August 2022, the Honorable Minister of Education then, Malam Adamu, alongside the Executive Secretary of NUC, and that's the National Universities Commission, and then representatives of the Honorable Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, and a lot of other government officials engaged us in a negotiation. And arising from that negotiation, these issues were agreed upon with a 3-month timeline. We were given 3 months. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Salam.
Okay, we were given 3 months. That within that 3 months, the issues of IPPIS, because we had also introduced a payment platform called UTAS. That place is noisy. I do not know, there is an interference, please.
Try to work on that, Mr. Salam.
Please hold on.
There is an interference from your end.
Please just give us a minute, second. We will try to, work on that.
Yeah.
Are you still with us, Mr. Salam?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
All right. I would like you to land on your thoughts very quickly before I ask the next question.
So we undertook a memorandum of understanding. We went into a memorandum of understanding with those aforementioned government officials. And at the end of the day, all those issues, one by one, the issue of IPPIS, it was said that, that within the next 3 months, they would address our concerns by ensuring that there would be a hybrid between what we had introduced, which is the university U3PS, which was what we had brought to the table as an alternative to IPPIS. Then 50 billion naira will be introduced into the 2023 budget for the purpose of paying the arrears of earned allowances, and within 3 months that the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement will be concluded. And there was a proviso, and that proviso was also, which is the non-victimization clause, which was to the effect that no member of the two unions, that is NASU and SANU, would be victimized on account of this strike. And the understanding that we reached was that our salaries will be paid. But as we speak, 2 years after, those salaries of 4 months arrears, accrued of 4 months which were withheld us, were not paid. Those substantive issues for which we went on strike were not addressed. So meaning that it was a total waste of our time going into an MOU with government, and as a result, having consulted with our organs, and also having given government almost 2 months now, because we started our agitation since January 2024. Because again, it was the 50 billion naira, for example, was introduced into the 2023 budget, but was never implemented till the entire budget ran out.
Mr. Salam,
so all this culminated into...
We have asked for time, so just permit me to ask this question, so if you can wrap it up with the thoughts that you have. You know, for the IPPIS, we know that the president in December, approved the exit of tertiary institution, public varsities and polytechnics from the IPPIS. So it means the government also is on this matter. And on this strike action by Ssanu'S and NASU, the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Nkiruka Oyejocha, expressed displeasure over this particular industrial action. And she said that the ministry was not officially notified by the unions of their intentions to proceed on a 7-day strike, a warning strike rather. And according to her, she says this is contrary to the provisions of Section 8 of the Trade Dispute Act. That means you did not carry along the ministry. You didn't come to the negotiating table with them. This is a new kid on the block. I'm talking about the administration of...
That is, the minister, with due respect, has lied to the public.
Okay, tell us...
She has lied. The minister is not honorable. She has lied. Please put me on record. The honorable minister of labor has lied. Put me on record. So I say it categorically.
Mr. Salam, what's the truth?
Because first and foremost, we have an employing, the labor law does not say we run to the Minister of Labor. The labor law says that we run to our employers. And who are our employers in this sense? The Ministry of Education. We communicated the Ministry of Education. And will the Minister of Labor say that our agitations, we wrote to the Chief of Staff, to the President, we wrote to the Presidency? Will the Chief of Staff say, will the Minister of Labor say she has not? And in any case, when were we invited for any form? Because I've listened to her and I told myself this is a tissue of lies. Very dishonorable of a public official. Somebody who is called honorable, please, with due respect. I even withdraw that respect because she has not earned it. It never took place that we were invited for a meeting to a point where we would say we want to. I think that is the height of insult. And it's a form of contempt on us as workers. Why do you have to lie? Why do you have to lie?
Now, she has also maintained that this strike that you are on, does not serve any useful or meaningful purpose.
That is her perception. That is her perception. But when we embark on the warning strike, let them go ahead and not do what is needful. And we embark on a full-blown strike, then we will know. This confrontational style by government is antithetical to the progress of the university system. This strike we embark upon, they say it is illegal because all what they want to do is to twist. And you ask yourself, if there was a no work, no pay that was introduced in 2022 and our members were not paid, was it legal for them after having an MOU, an agreement signed? Was it legal for them to have gone ahead? There is what they call pacta servanda, according to those people, the Latin phrase. An agreement freely entered into must be respected. Did they respect our 2022 agreement? They did not.
All right.
So how their action ab initio led or precipitated this strike?
But Mr.
Nobody is strike happy. Nobody is interested in going on strike.
Please, Comrade Salam, would you actually give them the benefit on the fact that they are new in this this is a new administration? We know that government is a continuum, but then would you give them the benefit, that benefit of them calling you to the table for a negotiation and giving them the benefit because they are new on.
As I told you, I am on my way to the airport. We were only communicated on Friday for a meeting to hold. The first said Monday. Later, the minister said she will not be available. It should hold on Wednesday. That's why I said they are not honorable. Because the minister categorically said she would only be able to meet us on Wednesday. I'm on my way to the airport.
All right.
Heading down to Abuja for the meeting.
All right, comrade.
If they knew that the strike was important, if they knew that the strike was important and there was need for them to intercept that strike, that should have been done much earlier.
All right.
Because even the blind, if the blind was seeing, the deaf was hearing that we wanted to go on strike. Since January, we had been given notice.
All right, Comrade Salam, you mentioned it, and it's a public knowledge that in 2022, during that strike, long strike, the federal government, through the Ministry of Labor, then introduced the no work, no pay rule. Are you still with me, comrade?
I'm listening clearly.
Introduced the 2022 no work, no pay rule, and a few months ago, when President Tinubu came in, he relaxed that particular policy, and he even said, okay, some of these wages and salaries should be paid. And we learned some of these things, some of those salaries have been, arrears rather, have been paid to members of ASU. And now Ssanu'S and NASU have not been paid, to the best of my understanding. Will you say in clear terms that the federal government is being picky in the way they are dealing with, Ssanu'S, NASU, ASU, and other unions? That they are just relegating intentionally members of the Ssanu'S and NASU? Is it what it is, or is it just coincidence?
That is clearly what it is. Their action is just divide and rule, being divisive to incite one group against the other within the system. We all went on strike in 2022, but at the end of the day, you decide you're only going to pay one section. And you see, this is part of those things. Like sorry, my sister who spoke earlier, I think I was just provoked by the fact that the minister was not being honorable. Now, talking about the issue of IPPIS that you talked about, that government made a declaration in December. But as we speak, February salaries, we are still paid with IPPIS 2 months after. You see, it's about not being sincere. Audio policies that are not practical, policies that are not implemented. You do audio policies, you scam the entire public to assume that this is what you're... So what we discovered is that the government is not being sincere. The government doesn't have the university system. It doesn't even have workers itself at heart. And that is the challenge that we have. That is the pain that we have as workers. Because we think, look, what kind of contemptuous approach would you adopt on issues affecting non-teaching staff within the system, or even the entire system in itself? IPPIS, the president made a declaration in December, but as we speak, I can assure you that even March salaries would be paid using the same IPPIS 3 months after a government or a presidential policy directive. Same for the issue of the salaries. Why would you pay one group within the system if they all committed the same offense, according to you, even though I do not see any offense committed? But if they all committed the same offense, why would you give 2 sets of laws for the same category, or for the same category of people? Are we not all citizens? Are we not entitled to, if you say that it is work and no work, no pay, and later you rescind, why should you rescind to only one section of the system? And then you decide to deny the others? And just as a point of even ending, let me point out that a lot of our members, even in 2022, were on strike, and we are not on strike. When we shut down the system in 2022, we still gave concessions. The security system, the security units were not on strike, but their salaries were not paid. The medical doctors were not on strike in 2022, their salaries were not paid. So what are we talking about? Which form of injustice is that?
All right, Comrade Salam, now last question for you. Going into this meeting with the federal government tomorrow, you said the meeting is slated to hold for tomorrow, if I am correct. What are your expectations?
Yes.
What do you think the federal government will bring to the table that will be acceptable by SANU, by NASU, for you to call off or suspend this industrial action?
Yeah.
Well, if this industrial action has a life of its own, it's just 7 days. And with all obvious what is on ground, if they invited us for a meeting on Wednesday, it is obvious that that strike will have to lapse. It has to go through the whole hog, because we cannot suspend the strike at the floor of that meeting. That is, if anything comes out of that meeting.
So
But like I said, I do not want to also be.
So this 7 days is 7 days, irrespective of whatever comes out of tomorrow's meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Because we will not suspend the strike at the floor of that meeting. We'll have to go back to our organs. Our organs are our neck members from across all the branches in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Before they aggregate, definitely will be Friday. The earliest they can aggregate, arising from that meeting, will be Friday. So that's why I said this strike has a life of its own. It's 7 days. So what it will only do, our negotiation will do, is that it would prevent a full-blown strike.
Okay. Lastly, how about the student? The consideration, when, proverbially they say where two elephants fight, the grass tends to suffer. We've had disruptions upon disruptions. The strike actions 1 year, 8 months, COVID, and we're in 2024. We are still having disruptions. For you as a father, for you as a caregiver, and having your words at universities and the education is being disrupted, will you, for their sake, for the consideration of having well-taught students, consider maybe just to pipe low a bit to allow the educational system to run smoothly, just for their sake?
Well, let me note that that description of when two elephants fight, there's only one elephant here, and that elephant is government. It is the Leviathan, it is the big everything. We are also victims as much as those students. Don't forget that the average Nigerian worker, especially those in the university system, cannot send their children to universities in the UK or Dubai or France or Germany. They can only they can't even send their children to private universities in Nigeria. They can only send their children to public universities in Nigeria.
All right.
I have my own child too, who is supposed to be in school. So the fact of it is that we are as much victims as those students. We are victims of a system that has, because again, at the end of the day, what we are doing now, many of those students will graduate and end up working in the same system.
All right.
So what we are only doing is to correct the ills of that system, such that at the end of the day, they do not also become victims like we have. So the appeal we'll make to them is for them to be patient, for them to have understanding, for them to realize that our agitations for now are for a better professional working environment for them if they graduate and choose to work within the university system.
All right. Comrade Abdul Salam, PhD. He is the National Vice President of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities. Thank you, Comrade, and I wish you a safe journey.
Thank you very much.
All right. That was the comrade there speaking on the matter, the agitation of SANU, and what could assuage them. They're going to the negotiating table. That's why I had to ask that question. These things is affecting the student, in the ecosystem is affecting them as well. But then the only component of that ecosystem that don't have a fault at all, they are just on the receiving side, are the students. Yeah. When you have your mates in private universities or outside the country, their 4 years has been 4 years, and you are still crawling. Your 4 years becoming 4, 5, 6 years. It can be frustrating. But then we hope there will be an amicable solution to these. And then once and for all, we'll go on this quick break. When we come back, we switch gears. The Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Stay with us.
Welcome back. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Now we focus on security, especially what happened in Kaduna State. We understand that a fresh attack, was carried out in Kaduna State on Sunday, where 87 residents were kidnapped by some terrorists. And we know that Kaduna has been in the news for some time now. Just not long ago, 287 pupils were kidnapped from the Leah Primary School in Kuriga, Chukwu local government area of Kaduna State. And on Sunday, it was in another local government in Kaduna State, Kajuru, thank you so much, Kajuru local government, where 87 people, 87 residents were kidnapped. To help us, talk deeper on this issue, make sense of this conversation, speak to the government on what they should be doing at this time, is a security expert and analyst, Dr. Chris Meyer. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you, Evelyn. It's Chuks Maha and not Chris. Yes, but going straight into the business, it's unfortunate that in a country of ours at this present time, we're going through the same rancor, going round and round as if we have no direction of play. I wish first of all to sympathize with the relations of those victims so far, especially those of the last incident that have not been released for almost half a year. Why is it that Kaduna State is the melting point so far of this form of crime? What's happening? If the governor there is no longer in control security-wise, which is meant to be the chief security officer of the state, he's not been able to employ all measures put in place, then a state of, I would call it a state of anarchy, where a state of loss of confidence, where the government moves in to take over the state and put a military apparatus in place to ensure this does not go on. The truth of the matter is that as it happens in state A and nothing is done, it's going to move into state B. And before we know what's going on, the entire country is swamped with this form of crime and menace all over. This is a statement of fact, and I want to believe all of us who are concerned in this country feel the same way, irrespective of your professional background or what you do for a living. But let's go straight into the business. We have different arms of forces, different security agencies in the country, for which the president is the commander-in-chief of the entire force structure, the security architecture of the country. I don't know why, for reasons best known to him, he has not put his full weight on this, irregardless of what relationship he may have with the governor, whether of the same political party, the same visionary intent or content, if they share the same things or not, but he is the father of the entire nation. If the governor is not doing anything, Mr. President should swing into action to say enough is enough, not from the same state. Now, for those who do not know, Kaduna can be linked, or it's not mentioned, we always assume Kaduna is a power state, but no, it's actually Kaduna. That's where you have the 1st Mechanized Brigade of the Nigerian Army, 1st Defender and GOC there. You also have the 1st Squadron Command of the Nigerian Police Force, that's part of the Mobile Police Force. So everything there is concentrated in Kaduna. And all that. Why is it happening in Kaduna? Is that the insurgents are trying to show rub shoulders with the military, rub shoulders with the security agents, say, yes, they are the same political crowd in terms of power, and that they can do as they wish? If that is the case, there is a slap on the nation. And I think we need to do something about that. I think I'll stop here until next question comes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Chuks Meyer, and forgive me for earlier. Now, let's talk about the fact that these insurgents came back. I mean, they might not be the same group, but then we just had 287 pupils kidnapped, and about 1 billion naira ransom was asked. And just when the president was talking tough, just when Governor Ubasani was blowing hot on what they are going to do to the criminals and that they are going to bring the pupils that were kidnapped back, we had another 87 residents kidnapped in the same Kaduna, different local governments anyways, but then in the same state. How helpless are the people of Kaduna at this time? How helpless do you think they are? And also, do you think the governor of Kaduna State, Governor Ubasani, really understands what is happening in his state and really knows what he should be doing at this time?
Well, I've said it before in certain fora and even on your program that first and foremost, before anybody is allowed to run for any political office as governor or as president, he should go through some form of security education training at Jaji. It's important they do this so they have an idea of what to do if any of these circumstances do arise. You can put them in small pockets or segment them to say, okay, fine. If scenario A happens, scenario A, if you do this, scenario B comes up, you do that. Yes, the governor may be helpless technically, but practically he still has the powers. He has the last resort to fall or default back on the federal government for assistance. He has not done that. The cry of help. Say, look, Daddy, Mr. President, I need your help. You are the one who can do this. You have the magic wand because you're the commander-in-chief. We need you to do this. Yes, like I said earlier at the beginning, I think it's a show of power by the insurgents. They are trying to show they can claim the same kind of political, economic, and supreme power in terms of flouting their muscles alongside that of governors, which should be wrong.
Okay, but the governor reached out to the president. In fact, we had the IGP visit Kaduna after that incident where 287 pupils were kidnapped. We had some, army leaders, visit also Kaduna. Wasn't that supposed to send a signal to these insurgents that Kaduna now is a focus, state of focus for the nation? But they're coming back. Does this undermine the powers that our military, our police have?
There's a difference between when you do what we call a show of power. The various security agencies come around, drive around town, flex their muscles, their armored cars, the kind of guns they carry, march there, make noise, and they go around and come off. Of course, they know they're not going to stay long. But when the federal government declares Kaduna State a state of emergency, it's a different ballgame entirely. The curfew is declared, whether it's 6 to 6 or just 3 hours, then the military, which is famous might, will go down, combing the area, facet to facet, snooping out, sniffing out, and of course flushing out all bad elements, as it were, from the corridors within the state. Yes, they leave Kaduna State to go to the next neighboring state. That is very, very possible, but that will then bring an end to that menace there. But I want to state here, it's not all about government. The people, the citizenry themselves, have their role to play. These insurgents are no spirits. They don't fall from the sky. They move around. They go to the markets to buy petrol for their motorcycles. People see them. But these people who see them and who notice them, what do they do? Is it out of fear or what? Or they encourage them? I want to believe there's something odd going on. Yes, until we're able to nip it, there is something odd going on. Why this menace is still going on unabated.
All right. Yeah, Doctor, one will say, and I take it from the last point or some of the questions my colleague asked earlier, to say 287 last week abducted pupils and students and teachers, by the way, 87 on a Sunday evening. With the president saying, go after them, we won't pay a dime, we'll recover our children back, and we'll go after the criminals. When we expect that what happened last week, those abductors should be hiding. They should just be docking somewhere to avoid the military. But instead, either the same group or not, they came back to come and wreak this havoc. And one will say, what an insult. Are they daring the Nigerian state? Are they daring the mind of our military? Isn't that an affront on the nation's integrity? That's number one. And number two, I'm asking you as a professional here, why now the spread of insecurity in the Northwest is the conversation this morning, because we know the Northeast for whatever it is, and it even happens sometimes it's like there is a calm in that place, although there are pockets of issues, but the entire stretch of the Northwest. But I'm being particular about Kaduna. Dr. Chuksmaha, why Kaduna? Who is on Kaduna? What do they want? What message are they sending?
Well, like I said earlier, Kaduna rings the bell to all those who are concerned, especially those who are above, let's say, 60. We all know what Kaduna portrays. To me, like I said, is a power state, whether you want to admit it or not. It's where the control of power, the might of the military. When I'm talking about the military, I'm talking about all the security agencies all combined together. You know, when we talk about security, security is not just lip service. Oh, do this, do that. No, your body language must match your speech, what your lips say. Then you give a commanding order. And like I said, it must come from the president. It's not a question of, oh, go and fish it out. No, it must be backed. And when it is backed, they must know the president is actually keen and is serious about the subject matter. And you see a big difference.
He has been talking.
I tell you, I tell you something, I want to be very serious about it. The Nigerian army, including all the Nigerian security agencies, are foremost in the delivery of services in Africa, first and foremost, and they can almost match person to person and work tall with any other security agencies anywhere in the world. We just need to give them the kind of backing they truly need. Once that is done, I can assure you, I can lay my own heart on the table and tell you there will be a complete change in Nigeria.
Backing you are talking about.
Must need.
What's this backing you're talking about?
Yeah, the backing I'm referring to is the seriousness which security deserves, which we give priority in this country and anywhere in the world, in Nigeria in particular today, and say, look, you are the commander-in-chief, and I say move, you move. And my movement is that it's not a political statement. It's a natural statement because I want a cleansing in the land. You talk to the chief of army staff, naval staff, air staff, the inspector general of police, the director general of DSS, and all the security agencies, DIA, NIA. I can assure you, with the kind of synergy we see now among the security agencies, this will be a thing of the past. I don't think they need 1 month to flush these elements out.
Yeah, you know,
if we give them the encouragement and the right tools. Right tools, I mean, give them everything they need from air support, the Nigerian telecommunications industry, work with them, you know, the area support, telecom support, everything. I can assure you, this will be probably a thing of the past.
Doctor, one was
the young officers who are commanding now are all hungry. They want to show there's a difference in what they can do in terms of their professional profiling.
Yeah,
it's not a question of changing the chief of army staff, not changing the inspector general of police. No, tell the person, give the person the right working tools, environment, moral support. I say, look, I'll support you. Anything you do to achieve this, it will be done.
Yeah, one would say this entire stretch of the Northwest, from Kaduna to Katsina, you know, to the top or down south here, that is quite a very big place. Kaduna itself, by geography, is the 4th largest in Nigeria. You want to talk about Niger, the biggest, Borno, Taraba, and then Kaduna, quite a vast state, very big, and that's been causing some area to say the entire Northwest. Why are they not, the governors of those states, why are they not having synergized effort? Because when you pursue these criminals from a place, they go to the other place. So why are the governors, why wouldn't they just come together on a single front to have a serious, maybe it's a 1 month or 1 week kind of intensified combing of this area to root out these people that will always come? It appears like we are making progress, then it degenerates. It appears like we are making progress, then it degenerates. And we are talking about human lives here. Doctor, make sense of this for us.
That's why I mentioned earlier, it's difficult to, really nip it directly. There should be, as far as I'm concerned, there's some element of political undertone in it. Like you rightly said, what's going on? Just like in the southwest here, in the southern part of the country, the governors came together with a common front security to form their own security network. Now, the northern governors can do likewise and say, no, we have a common interest. In the northeast and the northwest, we are being terrorized. We cannot allow this to happen. And these are one of the major causes why we have an increase in food prices now, the food scarcity, because the local farmers there in the north cannot go to the farms any longer. You go to the farm, you stand the risk of your life being lost, you're being macheted, your wives are being raped. If she's pregnant, your born child is being killed. So why go to the farms? So these are the spiral effects it's having. People are now losing interest. They're migrating from the north to the south, hoping to get safer havens to the south. But that is not the solution. The solution, like you rightly said, the government must mean the business. The government must come together. The government must strategize. The government must say, enough is enough. And I can assure you, this will become a thing of the past. Yes, looking at our borders very, very porous in the north. It's porous enough countrywide, but it's worse in the north. Now, that is one aspect. The second aspect, like we mentioned, Kaduna, we have almost all the factions of the security agencies all based in Kaduna. You have the Air Force, you have the Army, you also have the Navy, you have the police and all that. They can strategize, come together. Why not up the whole place up there? Go into the interior with the vigilantes there, assisting them, with the local farmers coming up there. And of course, you will smoke these people out. And let the governors of these states encourage a citizenry, we shall back you up. No harm will come to you. If you lose your life, your children will be given all full scholarship to any level they can go. You will see the people come out in their hundreds.
All right.
Donating themselves and declaring themselves in this fight.
Dr. Maha, as we round off, we have less than 1 minute now. And if you can do this quickly with us in 30 seconds. One question that has been resonating, that people keep asking, is this. And I want to ask you this morning, because you are the professional here. Who are these people?
They are faceless people being supported by some unscrupulous Nigerians. Whether in government or outside the government, but some people who want to make some quick buck at the expense of their fellow countrymen. There's no doubt about it. Let's call a spade a spade. We need to do something about it.
Are they really faceless? Are they really faceless? Because we've had some persons go to them, you know, they grant interviews. I know there was a time that Daily Trust went into their den. They spoke to some of these bandits. They are not really faceless. There are faces to them.
Yeah. When I use the word faceless, I mean that the people who we are interviewing and talking all about it are not the real people. Those are only stooges representing the interest of those who have asked them to do it or who represent their interest there.
All right.
That's why I use the word faceless. If you can pick them up and send them, not the military handling it, DSS, DIA, and they begin to interrogate them one-on-one. Names will begin to drop in one by one. But with the collection of these names, what are we ready to do? Because these names are names of persons, quote unquote, you might refer to them as untouchables.
All right.
The government must step up and do something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chuks for your thoughts this morning. It's always, you know, a great time. It's always nice having you on the show and also sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so much, and have for yourself a productive day.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being around with you.
Welcome.
All right, that was the security expert and analyst, Dr. Chuks Maha, speaking to the spate of insecurity that has continued to ravage the north, especially the northwest. I mean, we understand what happened in Kaduna.
Yeah.
You know, within the spate of 1-2 weeks, over 300 people, you know, being kidnapped. And we know for the 287, the bandits or the terrorists now are asking for 1 billion naira.
But, you know, the audacity is quite stinking, by the way. It's provoking as well. And that's why the instrumentality of the state, you know, the instrument of the state should be used to go against the people, get our students back and root them off our land. But, you know, as a roundup, the last submission of Dr. Maha is quite deep to say there are faces to this. Those ones that have been interviewed, those ones that, you know, you have their names. He said they are stooges, they are backers, they are supporters. He called them untouchables. So will the state be ready to go after them? And I'm saying this knowing fully well that there was a time that UAE government gave us some names to say these are terrorist financiers. And you know, your guess is as good as mine. We'll release the name. Like Mohammed said, don't worry, in due course we are working on it. He left. The Buhari government left. And the situation has not yet significantly improved. But God bless Nigeria. We go through, we summon this challenge, and the Nigerians will be the best for these. Femi Ojo is my name. We'll come back tomorrow, God willing.
And my name is Evelyn Ohiola. Stay tuned for Spring Trends coming right after this broadcast. Nigeria will work in our time.